House of Representatives just censured Democratic Texas Congressman Al Green over his outburst at Trump's joint address to Congress. You're looking at it there. Final vote was 224 to 198. Now, 10 Democrats voted yes, just 10, but I suppose that's something. And 2 Democrats voted present. Now, Green was escorted out of Tuesday's remarks after he refused to stop interrupting the president. He was screaming, "You have no mandate." He was waving his cane in the air. It was a whole lot of theatrics. Most Democrats maintained their support for Al Green and his actions. Now, while he was getting censured, his supporters broke out in song. Watch.
By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House had come to order. The House had come to order.
They broke out in song. Maybe it's time to come up with that postmortem about the election rather than singing. But time will tell if they choose to do so. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-host, Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Molly Line, Fox News correspondent. For the very first time on the couch, we are so excited to have her. She's a fighter. She's a warrior for women. Riley Gaines, Outkick contributor and host of Gaines for Girls on Outkick. Welcome, Riley. And Brian Kilmeade, Fox and Friends co-host and host of The Brian Kilmeade Show on Fox News Radio and One Nation with Brian Kilmeade, now airing Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Riley, we all saw you sitting there in the gallery. You were there as Al Green went totally nuts, and I'm just curious what you saw.
Well, first, let me just say I am so excited to be on the couch with you guys. As you mentioned, I was there. I got to witness the theatrical performance in person. Immediately, my first response is how embarrassing. Embarrassing not just for Democrats, but I felt secondhand embarrassment being in that room. I know other countries, they're watching this. Constituents, civilians across America, they're watching this, and it's embarrassing. Whether it's Al Green, whether it's the pink costumes, of course, their shirts, the storming out, then going on X and publicly announcing that they left, which, newsflash, if you have to publicly announce you left a room, chances are no one cares you were in the room in the first place. Entirely theatrical. I just want to know who is advising the DNC, the Democratic Party, because I believe they need to lose their job.
Yeah, they appear leaderless and rudderless, and even some Democrats would agree with you, Riley. So check this out. Axios had these quotes. Some of them were on background, meaning they didn't attach their name. Other Democrats attached their name. Here they are, centrist Democrat. What Green did was inappropriate. He became the story, not the price of eggs. Bingo. George Latimer, he's a moderate Democrat in New York. When a president, my president, your president is speaking, we do not interrupt. We don't pull those stunts. Jared Golden, another centrist. My take is that the average American thought the optics were pretty bad. Another Democrat, people could have just sat on their hands, but we ended up looking like infants when Trump is actually the toddler, he said. Well, there is one person who sits on the panel of The View who thinks more Democrats should have looked like infants. Let's watch her.
While I didn't watch it, I was looking for signs of an opposition party, which is what the Democratic Party must be at this point, not a resistance, because resistance is passive. When Representative Al Green stood up and said, you don't have a mandate to take away Medicaid, and he was tossed out, I expected the rest of his Democratic caucus, his rest of his colleagues to walk out with him.
Brian, so join the party, she's saying.
Another reason not to watch The View. You give us a reason every day. You just roll a clip like that. I was actually over the Senate camera in the gallery, too. Had a chance to see some of the antics. And he was the one who started impeachment 6 years ago, 8 years ago, right? Before we even knew what he was talking about. And then he starts saying some nonsense about Medicaid. It's not grounded in any reality. And he stood up, and I'm just wondering why the sergeant-at-arms who was ever doing security, before they went to Al Green, did you notice she went to Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, I did.
So I'm thinking to myself, why are you going to Nancy Pelosi? She's not even speaker. So does she know about it? And then he goes and talks. And then he goes back to Nancy Pelosi again. And then Al Green finally, another sergeant, then he gavels down. Another security person walks up who doesn't look like a security person, and they just basically tell him, you got to go. And he leaves, and he's giving interviews after. He has no regrets. Just such an embarrassment. And I don't think that the Democrats are really scrambling right now because, like you said, every president's got weaknesses. And maybe they want to use the eggs. Maybe they want to say inflation's not down enough. We didn't even get to that because all we're talking about is them not standing for the return of Mark Fogel, a student getting accepted to West Point, taking down illegal revenge porn. Are they for revenge porn? I'm surprised. They didn't seem to be different. What about the capturing of an ISIS agent that had the explosion at Abbey Gate, the mastermind of it? You can't cheer for that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And House Speaker Mike Johnson notes that Al Green was the first congressman to ever have to be removed from a presidential address. He joins this stellar group of individuals who have just been censored in recent years. We'll pull up their faces. Jamal Bowman, he was censured for pulling that fire alarm. Rashida Tlaib for her remarks, many characterized as anti-Semitic. Adam Schiff, who led Russia collusion. And Al Green, you're exactly right, led the impeachment hoax, the first one just a few months into the Trump presidency. You know, Emily, Brian made a key point. The message about the cost of eggs got lost. And Democrats put out this video where they were all saying the same message. It was Liz Warren, Chuck Schumer. It was the first time you'd really seen them singing from the same song sheet, but that got totally overshadowed by these crazy protests.
Of course. And look, to hammer out your point about crazy, I thought Brett McClintock had the best quote where he said, you know, in this lack of decorum, this crazy outburst wasn't perpetuated by some lunatic in buffalo horns. He said that was an elected representative of the United States Congress. And when you put it like that, and when you contrast his behavior with his lack of support for a constituent of his, Sweet DJ Daniels, who his father says lived there, that is preposterous. And these are the same body that is apparently paid to represent half of the United States, but they're doing anything but. And I also want to point out those 10 Democrats, including Case, including Houlihan, and more. So they voted to censure their own member of the party for that deplorable behavior. But where were they, however, on voting for biological men in sports? Where were they during the entire thing when there were so many reasons for them to at least clap and show support for the things that unite us all instead of simply dividing it further by sitting there sullen? So to me, showing somehow a modicum of support against for accountability against that behavior, I wish they'd gone a step further and shown us that they were Americans before they were children of their party.
Yeah, in my initial look at the list of 10 who voted, I do not believe any of them were one of the two who voted to keep biological men out of women's sports,
Correct.
Making your exact point. Molly, you know, DJ Daniel, which Emily brought up, the 13-year-old, that amazing little boy who had 13 brain surgeries, America just fell in love with. He captured our hearts. There was one Democrat who said this on Background to Axios about that. Not standing for Trump would have been a fine strategy, but you need to separate him from the kid with cancer. Why couldn't they do that?
Well, and that exactly, the not standing for DJ may have been worse than the being pulled out after shaking and screaming with your cane. And I think it's worth noting that DJ was not the only child that had a presence there in that room that had survived brain cancer. There was a woman from Massachusetts, a mother that went there with the Democratic rep from from Massachusetts, talking about her son Declan, who's 4 years old, who's been battling brain cancer as well, and the need for NIH funding, and the need for investment in childhood cancer, which is a nonpartisan issue that everyone can get behind. And raising that was part of what President Trump tried to do last night, too, saying reversing this trend when it comes to childhood cancer, one of the top priorities. So there's common ground to be found, and standing might have brought some of that common ground to the forefront. But I think what Democrats want to do is fight for those things, for NIH funding. They want attention on that and not on the shaking of a cane, the not standing for DJ. They want to fight for those types of things. Hakeem Jeffries tried to shift the dialogue towards criticizing the Republicans on the economy when he was asked about Green. So that's going to be a challenge for the Democrats to find a way to talk about the things that they want to talk about instead of being pulled into these types of discussions.
Yep. And when Biden mentioned the March on Selma, Mike Johnson stood. When Biden mentioned Hamas and the individuals who were captured by Hamas, Mike Johnson and Republicans stood, but Democrats couldn't get their butts out of the seats to stand for a kid with cancer and Laken Riley's mom. What a shame. House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke about the censure of Congressman Green earlier this morning on America's Newsroom.
Party is in disarray. You see that. They don't have an identified leader. They don't have a vision. They don't have a platform they can run on. And so the only word I can describe it is they're flailing right now. So that's why they resort to these antics. They want to fight Trump. They want to fight the America First agenda. They want to fight all of us. And so they debase themselves by showing up on the House floor and acting like children.
We have a special announcement. House Speaker Mike Johnson, at this time tomorrow, will be sitting where Brian Kilmeade is in the center seat of Outnumbered for the very first time. We cannot wait to talk to him.